everybody. Welcome to the Underwater Photography Show. As always, I am Matthew Sullivan.
And I'm Alex Mustard.
And as I assume most of the people watching this know, yesterday was World Oceans Day, and two major competitions released their results. So we're going to talk through, this week we're going to talk through the winners of both competitions. We're going to start with Ocean Geographic's competition. But before we get into that, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Alex about the new toy he was showing me off air. So we'll mention that briefly and then get into the picture.
Yeah, well, I have to better hold it up, this big beastie here. It's a new lens from Nauticam. It's still very much at the testing phase. Nauticam produce everything that looks like finished. They can't make something just in bare metal. They have to put the nice finish on it. And this is a new close-up lens in the MFO family. It's called an MFO2. It's very, very different from the MFO1, but it's kind of part of that same family of lenses. It's obviously a very big close-up lens to put on the front of your camera. But that's because it does something rather unusual for a lens, is that this lens is designed to turn your standard macro lens into a wider macro lens, but not a wide angle lens, but at the same time, turn it into a lens that delivers really excellent quality. And it's been targeted particularly at sort of Canon, Sony users and Nikon users who have 100mm, 90mm, 105mm macro lenses. And particularly when you do blackwater diving or you like to shoot slightly larger macro subjects, you crave for a really good 60mm, 50mm lens. And most of those manufacturers aren't really giving you a good option, certainly in the new mirrorless format, for those lenses. And this is designed to plug that gap. So as a Sony user, if I have a 90mm and I put this on the front of my 90mm, I still have my great autofocus on my 90mm, but now my lens is seeing as wide as if I had a 50 or 60mm. And obviously it allows me to change between those two lenses on a dive. Now, I would expect on a blackwater dive that I would just have this on the whole time. But on other macro dives, I may well have this on a flip or something like that. And it's like, oh, actually, you know what? I really wish I had the other macro lens on. Ta-da, I have it. I can hold it. I'll try holding it up to the webcam and you might see me change size and you might see all sorts of green screen and mess in my room behind me. I don't know how that's going to work. See, that's the... So you can see it makes things wider. It's corrected for underwater use. So if there's any funny optical effects, well, first of all, it's not designed for a webcam, but so it's designed to make the lens considerably wider. But because you're starting with a relatively macro lens, and the reason it's so big is all about image quality. None of us want a cheap fix. What we want is a really good quality, and unfortunately, that size is important for that. So it's not heavy at all. I'm not, it's anyone. I don't want to damage it, but it's really quite light. I've not put it on the scales, but when you pick it up, you expect it to be a lot heavier than it is. Is all I can say now. I'll when we review it properly in a few weeks. But yeah, I'm going to take it to the Red Sea, try it out, and it may go into production. It may not. That's why we test these things out. But I'll report back after the trip anyway. Actually, what will happen is I'll check in with Nauticam, tell them what I think, and if they're happy for us to talk about it, then we'll do an episode on it when I get back from the Red Sea in about 3 weeks' time.
Cool.
Right, back on topic.
Well, I look forward to hearing about that. But for now, let's get into these pictures. And normally when we do these, Alex is the one who has to suffer through mispronouncing people's names. But today I have the pleasure of doing that because he can't actually see the names on them. So I'll read off the name, the category, and then we will talk about the pictures a little bit. The only ones we pulled for Ocean Geographic are the winners of the underwater categories. And so we have none of the commended runner-ups or anything like that. So these are just the category winners.
Yeah, so head over. I'll put their website link in the description, and you'll be able to race over and see them on there.
Yep. So we start out with the animal behavior category. It's the overall winner by, and I apologize if anybody's watching this and I mispronounce your name, Mershe Yobera of orcas off Baja cutting through a Mobula school.
I mean, really great. I mean, until a few years ago, a picture like this would be like, oh my God, what a once in a lifetime thing. This has become really quite, particularly at this time of year, we're in early June, and late May, early June is a great time for this action of going and seeing the Mobula schools, and occasionally you can get lucky with the orcas coming in and predating on them. This one does have a great peak of the action, capture to it, with the mobulars scattering as the orca barrels into them. I have to say, on a continuous shoot, on a digger, I would be quite curious to see the next frame of this. Because it's not shot with strobe, so obviously there's no reason why you can't be shooting 20 frames a second or whatever your camera does. I love the fact that you can, particularly when I'm seeing it quite big on my screen, you can really, I really get a lot out of the orca. I feel like I can almost see its eye through them, and then I love the chaos in the school as the ones at the back are all safe because they've kept their formation, but these ones that have splintered apart, they're all panicking, all going in different directions, and when you've got flappy wings, it sure shows that you're panicking. So I really like those aspects of the shot. And I think that the shots I've seen of this, they really are remarkable if you take a step back. Now, a lot of people are doing these, and each year I kind of feel like we're seeing better and better shots from this. It feels like a perfect shot. Someone is going to nail that perfect shot. So this for me isn't completely perfect. I think what you really want is kind of this chaos, and then a great big grinning orca coming through the middle with one of these guys coming out of its mouth and blood going, and real absolute peak. But this is an excellent shot, and mind blowing. Even if you roll your mind back a year or two, amazing now. In a year or two, it will be interesting to see if this is the peak level people get, or whether people get a bit higher.
Yeah,
In terms of
so I've seen. It's funny you say that because I've seen this picture before. I can't remember if it was in another competition or if she sent this one for something for DPG. But I remember when I first saw it, and my first reaction was "Holy shit!" Because pardon my language, because you don't see, you know, the only time you ever really saw orca hunting images, it was of them with the bait balls in Norway or something like that.
mm,
So this is the first one I recall seeing of it, like you said, slicing through the mobula balls. And like you said, it'd be interesting to, and somebody's going to get it at some point when they have the whole school is like perfectly framed around the orca, and its orca's crashing through the middle, and either has one in its mouth, or is the teeth are all exposed and it just barely missed one, something like
mm,
that. I have to imagine somebody's going to get that at some point with the amount of people over there trying to photograph these now.
mm.
But until then, this one kind of stands out from the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's roll on into our next category, which is a diver and a grainer. I think this was in the divers category. I don't know what they call it, but
So this
divers
was
category.
Humans and Ocean by Jake Wilton,
Mm.
and I assume it's off Australia.
Yeah, it's a fish rock in New South Wales in Australia, and these are the grey nurse sharks coming in there, and a diver there. Um, for me, I think the picture's very nice. It's very much as it looks like there, and I've seen lots of people get almost exactly the same composition and shot, with the divers and the grey nurse sharks. For me, it's not the best composition I've seen of this location. I've seen shots where the grey nurses are coming closer to the camera, where there's a bit more energy in the background, a bit more impact in the shot. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with this frame. It does the whole diver and shark story pretty nicely. I have to say, I think I would have expected more in a big international competition in the humans in the ocean category than this. There's nothing wrong with this. It just feels like a commended shot more than an overall winner. And I find the color balance, I'll comment on this because you won't, Matt, but the color balance of this, it's very blue. The water there isn't always the clearest at Fish Rock. And I think this has been pushed quite a long way to make the water a nice blue. But as a result, the shark is a bit bluey and a bit lost in the background for me.
Hmm.
For given the situation, I think in this situation, you could get the shark closer, you could get more color on the shark, you could have a bit more pop. So absolutely, there's no real critique of the picture. It's a very well done shot. But I think for me, I'm surprised it was a category winner. Not because it's bad, just because I would expect something a little bit more stand out in this category.
Hmm. Yeah, I like the Sand Tigers. When I first saw this one posted, it was on Instagram, and it was said it was the humans and ocean winner. And I actually didn't see the person. It took me a little bit to find the person because it's kind of well camouflaged down there.
Mm,
But like you said, there's been a lot of images made at this site. It's a place I would love to do someday. and I like you said, I like it, but I think I've seen um, better versions of this same picture. And again, I won't comment on the color because I don't know what it looks like there, and I
Yeah,
also
that's
can't
why I
see them
brought that up.
properly. But it looks like a really cool place to photograph with all the sharks and the fish. So, like you said, I feel like there could have been more from this frame, and maybe he has others that he's saving for something else. Jake's a good photographer, but at least for this one, um, nice picture. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about it as a category winner.
Yeah, yeah, and I just and yeah, I think I'd agree with all of those points. Right, let's roll into our next category, um,
This was
which
Pietro Cremoni with in Creative Visions.
so this I'm guessing that the sponge is a single image, and then the plastic bag is a second image. Um, and I don't know what the rules are in this category, which makes speculating on how this picture is done. But the perspective and the width of this shot, the first picture, the picture on the left looks like or the part of it on the left looks like a vertically composed fisheye shot, and then we've now got a kind of a whole second picture on the right. So I suspect that this is maybe canvas extended in post. I don't know, but it's a creative category, and I think from memory anything goes. So anything goes.
Didn't
Um, I like
didn't
the
this
fact that the bag looks a bit like the head of a loggerhead turtle or something, and that and obviously there's a reaction from the sponge at this plastic bag underwater, and it fits a creative vision type category. If anything goes processing wise, this shot is impactful, it's memorable, it's fun as well, which I think is important, particularly in a category like this in a competition. If it's going to go out to the public, you want a picture like this is going to really grab people's attention. I do think it's problematic sometimes for competitions to have these anything goes categories when they present the pictures to the public, because you put this out in front of the public and people are like, oh, that is amazing, and then they read about the category and go, oh, this is done in Photoshop or whatever it's created in, and then they go, well, are all the pictures in the competition Photoshop then? And
yeah.
you rely on the people actually then paying enough attention to go away and figure it out. So I think for me, that's something I think the competitions should think carefully about. It's fun to have these, but I think, and this picture is a great outreach picture because it would really grab the public's attention. And actually, the most unusual thing about it is that amazing sponge, which is completely
Yeah.
natural.
Yeah.
And it's almost, when you have something so remarkable, it's almost a pity to add something. Now, it may be a completely straight shot, but I don't think it is from anything in the frame. So I apologise to Pietro if it is a completely straight shot. But I think the category allows Photoshop, so I'm not criticising the photographer. I was saying that I think really for me, I think the contests can tie themselves in knots, a bit like my answer here. In terms of when having these pictures, because they can make the public then doubt all the other images in the contest if you have a photoshopped category.
Yep. So I think it's really hard to anthropomorphize something that doesn't have a face. But that sponge is amazing. Everything from the eyes to the big wide open mouth, and then even the little hair, the toupee on top, is just fantastic. And didn't this picture as a standalone with just the sponge get awarded in UPY in like black and white or something like that? It looks familiar.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So same sponge. So the sponge, I think, is completely straight
Yeah. So
as a shot.
the image looks the same. So I wonder if you're right. He did just expand, and then either the bag is supposed to look like it's mimicking the sponge, or like you said, like it's the head of a turtle coming to eat it.
Mm.
But either way, cool picture. But I agree. I like it as a standalone with just the sponge and the hair.
Yeah, and I suspect the photographer does too. I think they probably did
Yeah.
this specifically for the contest. Right, let's roll on through.
So this is the winner of Fish Behavior by Koji Matsuda.
I really like this shot. I think that there's a little group of Japanese underwater photographers that are doing some fantastic fish behavior shots in the last few years. And almost every time you see a behavior category or a fish behavior category, whenever there are really cool behavior shots, there's nearly always Japanese photographers' names attached to them. And that's really great. And it's really great to see sort of a subset within our community who've got a real specialization and are pushing the boundaries in that area and getting rich rewards from it. So I think that's really cool. I mean, I'm assuming that this shot is a pair of moray eels spawning.
Yeah.
I've never seen moray eels spawning, so that is really cool. To catch them spawning and to also have those faces coming towards the camera, I find very impressive. You know, it's one thing seeing fish spawning. It's another thing getting them coming towards the camera while they're doing it. And a rare spawning, certainly in my experience, of moray eels. You know, I've seen billions of moray eels. I've never seen them spawning. I've seen them fighting quite a lot, but never spawning. So I'm very impressed by the catching this behavior, but also catching it in a way that's visually appealing and is also, gets that perfect angle of them coming onto the camera.
Yeah, I like. You can see both faces. You can clearly see what the animals are, and he has the eggs coming out of. I guess that's the female in the back, or the big one's maybe the female, which is really cool because, like you said, I've never seen moray spawning, and I've never seen a picture of them spawning. I don't think. So this is, and they're beautiful fish. Just the eels themselves are really nice.
Yeah, having them against an open water background is cool.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, I think certainly on my screen it's a bit dark. I don't know how it is on your screen. We've obviously got lights in our face here as well, so it's not always the easiest to look at them. But it just feels like there was a little bit more to come out of this frame as in processing. It looks like it's a bit squashed at the black end, obviously you want the black background, but I feel the dark areas of this picture could be a bit brighter. And you then really see the eggs and more of the detail of the the eels. Right, rolling on through to another black background.
So this is black and blue water by another Japanese photographer, Kazushige Horiguchi.
And these are sea angels, I'm guessing.
They don't actually label them on the website, but they look like sea angels to me, or sea butterflies, whatever they are.
Yeah, I think these ones are sea angels because they're they're pelagic mollusks, and this is a pair of them mating. I like this shot just because these particular individual species has got this lovely orangey color inside. Often you see shots of these guys doing exactly this, but they're little blue guys, and I think here having that orange really adds a lot to the picture. The fact that it's not just two little grey chaps together. You've got these two here, and you've got a lovely blue. You've got a lovely orange on the black. I think a lot of blackwater shots, as we say every time we review competitions, there is kind of a feeling of there's kind of a formula to win blackwater categories, which is, you kind of need more than one subject. You kind of, and it's about having two things interacting in an interesting way is usually the recipe for success. So this fulfills that recipe. It's got really nice depth of field. And yeah, I think it's a well done shot. I suspect these are probably a high latitude one. I know, like here we get them up around Norway and occasionally in the north of Scotland, like this. And I think so. This may well have been taken in very cold water, which is pretty cool to see slightly different blackwater subjects coming in as well.
Yeah, I've often said it'd be interesting if people started doing the blackwater stuff up in places like Alaska or northern Canada, places like that, just to see what kind of stuff shows up. And obviously, because it's cold and dark and deep, it could be a bit more dangerous. But at some point, I would imagine somebody will start doing them and probably get a whole host of new blackwater things that'll kind of maybe, I don't know, give some new life.
You want a GPO larvae shot, don't you?
Oh, that'd be cool. I'd like a
GPO on a blackwater dive in Canada.
But yeah, I mean, I like these. They're cute and cuddly. And like you said, I don't think I've actually seen ones with that orange coloration in them before. I've seen sea angels, and I've seen some with a little bit of color, but never photographed quite like this. So really nice.
Yeah, it's a nice. Yeah, you can't argue with it as a category now. All right, top side one. I was going to skip that. Yep. It's an iceberg with penguins on. I've seen that a bazillion times. Right. It's nothing wrong with it. Good shot, but yeah.
So this is Ocean Geographic emerging photographer. So I think it's like a small portfolio, and they have 3 images.
Yes,
Um,
I
so I
should
picked,
I should know about this one because I judge this category. So
okay. So this is from Hannah Stadler, um, and she was the winner of that category. So and I just grabbed the first one that they had put on the website. So she had of her
yeah,
three.
I think it's always nice I really like in all competitions categories aimed at promoting new talent. While it's great to see what the sort of the top contest photographers are doing at the moment, I also really like to see what new people are doing, and particularly when new people are bringing really fresh ideas, or at least bringing in a willingness to experiment in their photos. I think this one of this thorny seahorse, and then these few little polyps that it's sitting in front of, look really, really pretty. And I really like how it transitions into that natural blurry blue to the side from the panning. I think it creates a really interesting and unusual frame. So yeah, and I think particularly in a up and coming new person's emerging photographer type category, I think it's great to reward these types of skills. So I would maybe have a different view on some of the more quirky types of macro in a mainstream macro category, whereas in an emerging photographer category, it's like these are great skills to learn how to do and to push your boundaries with early on while you're trying to find your style and the types of photos that you want to take.
So this is actually my least favorite of her three. So I don't know, but I just grabbed this one because it was the first one in line. But I so what I wish from this picture, because to me it feels a bit disjointed because of the black and the blue, and it just feels kind of unbalanced. I would love to see if the whole frame had that blue coloration, and then the seahorse and the polyps are lit selectively. That would be more appealing to me than. And again, I'm not coming from this from a judging perspective, and I'm not coming at it from based on the actual category, just for the picture for what it is. I would like this. I would probably love this image if the whole thing had the blue streaking through it, and the seahorse and the polyps were lit like they are. But as it is, it just feels a little disjointed to me between that stark start of the black and the blue, and there seems to be a lot more blue than black, and I don't know. It just doesn't. It looks a bit off to me.
I think
Um,
maybe it would benefit from a crop, from
Yeah, so I think
actually.
if she pulled in, maybe it'd be as simple as that. If she pulled in from the left side and took off a little bit of the blue, so that it felt more even down the middle, I think
Mm,
that would actually make a significant difference. And you're right, maybe that's all it would take versus having
mm,
the whole frame be blue. But so Hannah,
yeah,
if you're watching and you want to send us the picture of this crop, feel free to send it to us so we can see it.
but it's a 3 image category. This so each
Yeah,
photographer enters 3 images, and you across those 3 images, I judge it looking at whose three are most deserving of being the emerging photographer.
yeah. I liked her
So
squat lobster. It's not squat lobster. She has a squat, or I guess people call them sexy shrimp.
mm,
She had a sexy shrimp one in there that I probably should have pulled because I really, really like that one. But
mm.
um,
Well,
all good.
people can head on the website and have a look at them.
Yeah.
Right. Um, our next one is
This
of a
is,
thing.
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. This is Color Prints winner by Isabella Cole.
Um, it's very impactful. I presume the print category people actually post prints, which is rarer and rarer in photo competitions, and I think it's a bit of a lost art of producing a good prints. And prints are a very interesting way to judge photos because they're unforgiving because of the fact that you get to really stare at the image at much higher resolution in more detail. Although the process of printing can be quite forgiving in some areas, I think it's quite a good test of photographers to have a print competition. And I'm
So they actually have
sad
to
that more
send
contests don't
in
have them.
prints.
Sorry?
They actually have to send in prints.
Well, I presume so if it's called print.
Yeah, I
I
don't.
only
Yeah,
judge the one category that is named after me. So I'm not involved in anything other than I just get an email and pick my favourites.
okay.
But I presume it's a print categories. I think the print categories probably get less entries because people are like, that's a lot of hassle to go to. But I actually think it's very good for photographers to have print competitions because I think it's and certainly when I used to go to the Antibes Festival in France, the print competition there was great because although people rated the slide portfolio as the ultimate category for stills photographers, the prints actually got, because they were on display the whole time, got far more attention. So because they were always up, and everyone was allowed to print up to A3 size, which is in inches. This will test me. Um, is about 18 by 12, but I'm not completely sure what A3 is in inches off the top of my head. But it's and everyone was sort of sent a print into that size. They had a set of frames that they kept, and every year they put the 100 best prints into frames, and that was a really great way of having a contest. So they might have got 200 prints, but they then choose to show the top 100, and then the judges judge by walking round, and everyone gets to enjoy them for the whole festival. So I think print competitions can be great, and they do challenge photographers, particularly when the print sizes go up a bit. I think if you just make it A4, which is kind of standard, 12 by 8 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm rubbish on inches on the sizes of those things. Then I think then the print size isn't big enough, and basically it's not it doesn't challenge people enough. But I think ask people to produce bigger prints, it can make for a really good competition. And I think as a general comment, we live in a time where the calendar is over congested with underwater photography competitions. We're reviewing the fact that two are being announced on the same day here. And wouldn't it be great if a contest, said, right, we're going to be different. We're going to be print only, but we're going to be attached to this show, and you can come to the show and see all the prints as well. And the judges will judge the actual physical prints at the show. And I think a lot of photographers would really go for that. So I like the fact they have a print competition. This photo, I think it's a good choice for a print with the very high contrast scene of the kind of harsh lighting. The fact that I like some of those interesting reflections on the surface, where the shadows created by the strobe are reflecting, the shadows created by the strobe on the ripples on the sand are reflecting off the surface of the sea. And the ray is very nicely positioned in the picture. The way it's processed, the ray does look a bit stuck on, but I think that's just because it's masked and then processed a bit. I think I see the ray in the reflection, so I don't think it's been stuck on, but it looks stuck on because of the processing.
Yeah, I like this one too. I love the reflections. They're the first thing I noticed. The only thing that bugs me a little bit is that bottom right corner is a bit harsh, and like a small linear gradient would have knocked that down a little bit and evened it out with the left side. But yeah, I love all the textures, and I'm a big texture guy since color doesn't do much for me. So I love seeing pictures with lots and lots of texture like this. So nice. And perhaps I'm just foolish. I had just thought this category was like, oh, submit pictures that you think would look good as a print. Not
It might be.
necessarily.
Don't take my word for it.
But yeah, nice picture. And if anyone knows the actual rules to this, let us know.
Well, they're on their website, so we could go and read them. But that would
true.
be that wouldn't be in the spirit of the underwater photography show, doing that level of preparation. Right. Let's move on to the next one.
So this is Coral Reefs by Emery Oxford.
This is an unusual picture. Because for me, it's obviously taken on a coral reef. You have a sea fan and a bunch of butterfly fish, which is quite unusual. Overall, I quite like the composition. It's a very different shot. It's not a picture for me that screams coral reef. I find the lighting a little awkward. It's not a bad picture by any means, but I'm surprised it was picked as the winner. But I don't have any issue with it as a picture. It just doesn't, it doesn't feel like the winner of a coral reefs category, if you know what I mean.
I do like the composition, and I like the fact that there's 3 or 4 different butterfly fish species in there, and I love butterfly fish. For whatever reason, they were one of the first fish that caught my attention when I was little, and it's never really left me. But yeah, having seen some of the other images in the category, and maybe this is it. Maybe the others were more classically coral reef competition type images, so they went with something a bit different, which is totally fair. The lighting on the outside of the sea fan bugs me a little bit because it keeps drawing my eye. Bear with me. Naya is scratching the floor. um, but the it looks like it's probably a deep reef too, because you can see the surface up there, but it's very dark. There's no real sun, so maybe it's just late in the evening or
Raining.
something like that. But yeah, remember that. So it's an unusual picture, and maybe that is why they selected it, is because it's not a classic coral reef scene. But my main critique is just that lighting on the sea fan's a bit harsh, and there seems to be like the right side is a little empty. Maybe you could crop that in a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I would be. I mean, I can see why it kind of got to the sharp end, and then having got to the sharp end, I can also understand how it ended up standing out to the judges, because you can
Yeah.
see a situation where everyone's like, "Well, all these are kind of quite similar, and this one's really different." And sometimes that's the way it goes. Yeah, for me, I'd like to, I'd like to get a bit more from the sea fan. It just disappears too much into the darkness, and it's such a beautiful sea fan. A little bit more of it. The butterfly fish are very nice though, and I think the overall feeling of depth of the picture is also nice. To finish on some positives, right? Moving on to bait ball being attacked by, I guess it's a Brewer's whale.
So this is the open water winner by Luis Perez Barracal. Barracal. But yeah, off Baja clearly. Probably last year's picture, judging from the mahi in there as well.
Well, you mean, yeah, kind of 2 seasons, or the previous season.
Yes.
So
I do like this. Sorry, I didn't mean to go first, but my biggest critique of this is I don't think that sea lion on the far right side is necessarily the one in the background. And if you pulled that in, crop that just a little bit, because you have a lot of empty space on that whole bottom right side. I think it can make it a little more impactful if you got rid of that. And I'm sure that's why he left it as is, just to get that sea line in the background. But I don't think it's really necessary since all of the action is elsewhere anyway.
yeah, I know that there is some controversy over these whale shots, given the fact that you're not allowed to purposely swim with whales in Mexico. And all the photographers are, well, we were chasing bait balls and then a whale turned up, which is very clearly what's happened here. But it's I know that people moan about that. This one for me definitely feels like there's no disturbance at all to this whale. This whale is getting on with its life. It catches a great moment. I really like these shots personally, and I like the fact that these shots are really showing the behavior of whales in a way that I hadn't really seen. There was, a few shots of whales with their mouths open feeding until, in the world until about 4 or 5 years ago. And now there are loads, and it's great. I think it really is educating the public. So I'm all for having these types of shots in. I understand the criticism that some photographers say to the about them, but I personally, I think these shots are doing more good than harm, and I don't see this whale as being harassed. I think this whale is happily getting on with its life, and not being impacted by the people. I like the light in this picture. I like that the whale is coming up to the light. With you, I do feel the picture's a bit unbalanced. Everything feels a bit on the left, and I think lose a bit off the right, and the picture would only get better.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very cool shot. Very nice. If you're happy to have these shots in and you're not worried by some of the things that I know I see criticism when pictures like this are shared on social media, if you're not bothered by that, then it's a standout category winner straight away. Cool. Yeah, really nice. And good effort from the photographer as well too. There were lots of these last year, and then a lot of people probably entered them last year, go, oh, I didn't win last year, I wouldn't try it again. And actually trying it a year later when there's less competition with this subject matter because of the change of the run that year, then yeah, suddenly it's a good competition approach. Right, we've been going quite a long time. We've still got a couple to go, so we better keep going. A green turtle with a couple of golden trevallies.
So this was Portraits winner by Ramona Becca.
It's very nice. I mean, it's I like, it's kind of classic. It's a classic. Green turtle's got great faces. It's looking down the barrel. It's unusual to find an angle where you can frame one on the seabed, but with the sun behind.
Yeah.
There must have been a hole or something here to get the camera down into, or it was shot blind. In either case, to capture that angle and get the sun so perfectly behind it, but also the shot was planned like this because she set the exposure so that the background is right when you've hidden the sun. If you were shooting this horizontally, the sun would be too bright because you haven't. I think that works really well. And then to get the two golden trevally in there so well, I think all those elements work really well in this picture and turns a pretty common shot into actually, for me, quite a standout. And I like when photographers take subject matter that everyone sees reasonably regularly. Turtles feeding on seagrass is not exactly, oh my gosh, how did you see that? And actually creates a really strong image from it that really stands out. So for me, this impresses me a lot as a shot.
Yeah. So Ramuna's a friend. I'm super stoked for her. She's had some good competition success in the last couple of years. I really like this picture too. I love sun rays. Everybody watching this knows I love sun rays. I don't shut up about it. The only thing I wish, and maybe it's just because maybe it's just my computer screen, like you said, we have lights in our faces, so it's a bit darker. I wish you could see a bit more in the eyes of the turtle. If she just brought, even in post, bump that exposure up in the eyes just a tad, I think it would make the eye contact a bit more significant because they do have pupils that you can see. It's not like their eyes are just black holes. So it'd be interesting to see a little more pop there. But I love the trevallies. I love the sun rays. And like you said, getting underneath one on the seabed is not that easy to do because they usually just have their faces mashed down into the seagrass. But yeah, great eye contact. Love the sun rays. Love the trevallies.
Yeah, it's a really cool shot. Right. This handsome fellow. Next.
Yeah, so this was the small exotic animal winner by James Emery.
It's definitely a small exotic animal. I like very much the subject. I like very much the background. I think the subject for me, because it's so small and exotic, I'd love it to be a bit bigger. It's I'm seeing the picture quite big here, and I still go, something that cool I want to see better. I want to see more of. And I think this same shot, same composition, but just get the lens, that little bit closer to this nudie, so it's 2 or 3 times the size in the frame, and this picture is an absolute stunner. Yeah. I think like this, it feels like it just makes me look at that picture going, if that comes up on my camera, I'm going, oh, I'm on something good here. Now I need to get it better. So I really love the subject. I really love the background, the exposure, the feel of the image. But it feels like there's a better shot was taken, when the camera was moved another, little bit closer because it's, that subject is so cool. It's reared up. It's looking at the camera. It just feels like a little bit closer would be even cooler.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites from the whole thing. And like you, my only real critique would be it could be a tiny bit bigger. I like it as is, and especially yeah. I mean I've only seen it small. I think if you saw it real big, you might not feel that it had to get bigger in the frame. Yeah. But I love the fact that it's looking at the camera. I actually like the side light. It helps it stand out a little bit better, I think. And I love the background in the green water. And I don't actually remember, because he's posted this on Instagram, I don't remember what lens he shot this with. So it's possible that maybe
I was assuming it was EMWL, but it might not be.
I know he's got one. He doesn't have one, so it might be a mini dome or something like that. I'll have to go back and look or just ask him. But I really like this. It's like a little. It feels like you're down in the grass with it. I mean, because you are, and that the grass is this enormous forest reaching up around it. So I really like it. True, it could maybe be a bit bigger in the frame, but maybe he has another one that he's sitting on or saving that has that exact thing going for it. But this one I really, really enjoy. Probably,
and it's a very handsome. Sorry.
Yeah, I like his little frill.
Yeah, but that's why I want to see it bigger, because it's such a. I don't know if it's Polycera or something. I don't know the California nudies anyway.
So this one is the smartphone winner by PJ Aristorenas.
Um,
Aristorenas.
very nice. We just done an episode recently on smartphones, and it's a great example of what they can achieve. I think this is an area where they can really stand out from GoPros and action cameras is their ability to do macro as well. And
Yeah.
I think that's what makes them, we didn't talk about it in the episode so much, but that's what makes them a real credible stills photography alternative to those as an entry level. Is GoPro's great, or an action camera is great for doing video, but you can't capture small stuff, and seeing cool small things is such a big part of diving. I think that's why the phones really work for me. So yeah, nice behavior, cool critters. The light, the color, everything looks really nice in this. So yeah, just it's. I think the background isn't perfect. I think this particular nudie, because the Pikachu tips end in black, they don't always look that good on a black background. So when I shoot these, I usually try and shoot them into the sand a little bit. And obviously with a longer lens than a phone, you can blur that sand out, and they kind of, I think, look their best against the sand rather than because they end in black. The black spots within them look great on the black things, but the black rhinophores and the black tips on those Serrata, I think, don't work so well on a black background. But I mean, that's not capturing behavior, capturing cool creatures, showing what can be done with a phone. It's great.
Yeah, I got nothing really to add to that. One thing I was going to say is I would like to have seen it at a bit lower perspective, but then like you said, I don't know if that would necessarily help because the black parts, maybe even more of the black, would blend into the background. But yeah, like you said, we've just done an episode on this. It's cool to see where phones are going and what people are able to do with them. And actually, there were some other cool ones in this category as well. So I imagine they're only going to get better and better as we keep seeing competitions open up to phone housings.
Yeah. And our final one is this stunning shot of these pilot whales.
Yeah, so this was the Eduardo Acevedo, the portfolio winner, and this was the flagship image from that. So I just pulled one. The whole portfolio is really, really nice, but this was the main one. So I imagine this is the one he built it around. And yeah, pilot whales, they look super adorable. They are very predatory though, so don't be fooled by their aesthetic. But it's cool to be able to see. Oftentimes when you see pilot whale pictures, you see them they're far away or they're in silhouette or you can't see many details. And here you can see like the pupil in the eye. You can see that little grin. So it's easy to anthropomorphize it in this image, even though it looks kind of shady.
Yeah, no, and yeah, just the light is so nice as well. It's obviously a windless day, but there's just such evenness of light on the body of the whale. It just looks beautiful. You really can see the details of the eyes. It's just a very beautiful image. And I like that he's been mindful enough to to get those reflections in. It doesn't bother me that the horizon's a bit crooked. It's such beautiful animals. The horizon is very hard to spot anyway because it just blends into the blue with those beautiful sea conditions. I'm guessing taken off Tenerife in the Canaries, but maybe it's in the Med as well.
Yeah, and I like the upward sun rays too.
Yeah, just really, really, when you add the clarity, those really pop out in these shots. So yeah, really, really, really beautiful picture. Nice one to end on. Right, we have been going for ages, so I think we should wrap this one up. It was us getting distracted at the beginning with new arrivals in my house. So with that, thanks guys for watching, and we'll be back soon with another contest review and some more episodes as well.